This F4U 5NL model of the Corsair, a night fighter version from the Korean War period.
In fact, the last surviving airworthy Corsair to have flown combat missions in that conflict.
This aircraft was allocated to US Marine Corps Night Fighter Squadron VMF 513N, the Flying Nightmares, in February of 1952, and was assigned to the US 5th Air Force for operations in the Korean War. Corsairs, such as this one, and Grumman F7F Tiger Cats of the Flying Nightmares flew from Busan West Airfield in South Korea on night air defence and interdiction sorties, and in the course of those, this very aeroplane amassed in excess of 120 combat hours in the Korean theatre. Later served with the Argentinian Navy and was preserved there, mounted on a pole outside the Naval Aviation Museum in Tigre, near Buenos Aires. And that was until a French consortium headed by a gentleman by the name of Claude Simonadis, an ex-Corsair maintainer, bought it. But it took 3 more years from that point until 1994 for the aircraft to arrive in France at Le Castellet for restoration. And its maiden flight took place in March 2000, and very notably that was in the hands of a man who went on to fly the Corsair at air shows for very many years, but who had plenty of Corsair experience prior to that. Of course, there are lots of pilots who fly warbirds. Very few of them have got actual combat experience in those types, but Ramon Josa had, with the French Naval Air Arm, the Aéronautique Navale. In fact, Ramon also has frontline experience on another later Vought naval fighter type, the F8 Crusader, during his French Navy service. A fantastic gentleman, and he displayed it for very many years. It was then bought by Max Alpha Aviation in Germany and operated by them from Bremgarten, and it was during that time that it was repainted in the markings of a Korean War Flying Nightmares Corsair. And they also reconfigured it as a night fighter, just as it had been in service with the Marine Corps, because it had been restored prior to that as a French Navy F4U 7 model. And it's interesting how information about historic aircraft comes about. In this case, it was the son of a former Flying Nightmares pilot, Al Sadesky, who found the airframe record card for this aircraft, which confirmed a great deal of the history behind it in relation to the Korean War. And it was with the Max Alpha collection, founded by Maxi Geinzer, until late 2023 when Georg Raab, who we saw earlier in Spitfire MH415, bought it for his Flying Legends collection at Siegerland. It joined his P-51D Mustang Francis Dell, as well as a Harvard and a Stearman Cadet. They've since been added to by the Spitfire we saw, and he's got a Hispano Bouchon under restoration with Fast Aero at Brascat in Belgium as well. When the aircraft's back on the ground, you'll maybe see that on the nose it carries the name Devotion, which has been applied in honour of the recent film of that name about the Korean War. Often something of a forgotten conflict, but of course one of those during which piston-engined aircraft tangled with jets, and in the sequence we're going to see on both show days, we're expecting to see this aircraft paired up with the Lim 2, the Polish-built MiG-15 of Fubar Aviation, and there's a very interesting story to tell behind that. The Chance Vought F4U 5NL Corsair of Flying Legends.